Hello, America. I'm DiBRAVA, and welcome to Culture Club USA. And today's riddle is, the ballad of a harlot is the song of an intentional sinner. It can be sang in the summer, but its message is as cold as the winter. The ballad is silent of love, with no absence of malice. It's an anthem for the soulless, a rallying beacon for the callous. Okay, in today's episode, desperate Democratic operative and professional philanderer Jasmine Jafar once again goes to war with Marquette from The Saint and the Sinner about her father's opinions on her life choices. This should be interesting. Let's dive in.
Bob writes, peace to the Saints. Great interview. I'm curious, how does her father feel about her activities? I'm guessing you get this question all the time.
Yeah, he's not happy about it. Yeah. But I don't live to make my parents happy.
We know.
I was just going to say, clearly. I don't know a single parent on earth who would be happy or proud that their daughter was a porn star and prostitute. Okay.
We know. We know. Listen, has your father ever seen any of your...
My father doesn't even...
Okay, that is a grotesque question. I hope the answer to that question is a hard no. My God.
My father doesn't even go online. Like, he doesn't even... He's in his 70s now.
Engineer that doesn't go online. That's amazing.
I mean,
okay.
He'll watch, like, he knows YouTube, and he'll watch, like, lectures on YouTube and stuff, but he's not, like, tech savvy enough to even, you know, and he wouldn't be happy with it. And I get that. And he's not happy with it. He knows everything. But at the same time, I'm 28 years old. He can either not have a relationship with his daughter, or he can just do like...
No, your dad's soft. He's going to keep that relationship. That's why you're like this, because he's soft. But would you feel
Oh my God. Boy, is he right. I mean, I can't even imagine what my father would do to me if I was on OnlyFans, okay? I don't even know if I'd be here right now. Actually, I'd probably be in Russia in some camp, reforming myself somewhere. Who knows? Oh, he said her dad is soft. We know. Ooh.
Your dad's soft. He's going to keep that relationship. That's why you're like this, because he's soft. But would you feel uncomfortable if your dad was watching your jacking off?
Of course. But I mean, there's probably...
Oh, God. You know something? The thought of this is so disgusting. This is actually disturbing. I can't even believe that we have gotten to a place in society where we're talking about a woman speaking of her father and whether or not he has witnessed her doing said thing on OF. I mean, this is just like disturbing.
I mean, there's probably a bunch of people that I would, if I thought about it. If my third grade teacher is watching my jacking off, it's uncomfortable. But that
why with your father would that be? Why would that be uncomfortable instead of something to celebrate? Like if your dad subscribed to your... Why not celebrate and say, hey, I made another sale. I got another fan. I've converted my dad from being mad at me. Now he's happy and he's a consumer. He appreciates my work. Why not be pleased?
Why what? What's the question?
She just pretended like she... Now, Jasmine, come on, girl. You're a lawyer. You an OnlyFans lawyer, okay? You ain't a lawyer no more. You an OnlyFans. I mean, come on. Jasmine, you don't know what he just asked you? Or you don't want to answer the question? Or are you trying to think about how to get out of this now? Actually, see, she's sitting here going, why did I ever come back on here? Why? I thought 3 times would be a charm, but I guess I was wrong.
Question?
Why not be pleased with the fact that your father is subscribing to your and he appreciates your work?
That would be very different than the relationship my father and I have. And I very much love and appreciate that relationship. Just like if I was a married woman and I never had an... and my father happened to walk in on me and my husband in our marriage having sex for procreation, that would still be uncomfortable, because usually a father and a daughter, way we do it, it's not in that light. There's no sexual undertones between me and my father, and me and my father have a very, very close, loving, like, relationship in that way.
What is she talking about? Okay, you have a loving relationship with your father, but he knows you're a prostitute and he's okay. Like, he's not okay with it. You just said that, but you have a fine relationship. Like, there's no turmoil in that relationship, being the fact that your father knows you are a porn star and prostitute, and you have a law degree. I mean, that's got to be the most disappointing situation on earth. You're a father, okay? Your daughter, you know, whether you want her working or in the, you know, workforce or not, she became a lawyer, okay? And instead of practicing law, she's practicing corn? Wow.
I understand.
Okay.
But you're a logical person. What is the logic that makes this
would it be morally wrong if my father did that? No, that's not. So that's a completely different question. I don't think it'd be morally wrong. I think it would just be weird and it would change the dynamic of our relationship. And I don't like that because I like our relationship.
Why wouldn't it be I'll give you an example. Like, so your life work
was jerking off to my too. Now I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, this is not.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example real quick. So my life work has been in technology. So if my mother downloaded one of the technologies that I've created, invented, and she's using it, I would be thrilled. I'd be over the moon. And I'd feel like my mother has come to understand what I do. She's embraced it. She respects me. She's supporting me financially as a consumer. And she gets it. She appreciates it. Like, that would be really fulfilling to me, to have someone I care about enjoy my life work and participate in my life's work. As your life's work is, why wouldn't you get to take the same good feelings from someone supporting you financially, consuming and participating in your life's work? Why can't you take the same joy that I take?
Because, like,
yeah, you know, that's a setup question. Could you imagine having your father enjoying your life's work when you're a prostitute? I mean, come on.
Even, for instance, these kinds of debates where my clothes are not off, there's no underpinnings or anything, because the things I say are so different than what my parents believe. A lot of other content creators feel this way. You don't want your parents to, like, watch. It's not the end of the world, but you don't, like, want your parents to watch the content because it kind of creates some kind of, and nothing related to sex, where it created like some kind of negative discourse, tension in that relationship. And so even when I go on a podcast and I'm like saying something that they would disagree with, like, my parents are religious and I say, I don't believe in God, I'll have that conversation with them. But I wouldn't love if they were to watch me, like, do that online, because, you know, it can create tension in our relationship. I don't think it's because of shame or anything. That's what
Jasmine, with love, with sincere love, you actually said the right word. It is shame. You are experiencing what human beings call shame. You feel ashamed of what you're doing. You feel ashamed of what you're doing.
Of course she feels ashamed. Look, okay, because if she had to, like, be around family and be like, you know what, it's bring dad to work day. How would you actually do that when you actually have a law degree? You see, that's where the real shame comes in, because you were not adopted. You didn't grow up in an orphanage. You have a family with brothers and people who are around you. So there's absolutely no excuse. You are just a disgusting, hedonistic pig and filth who wanted to make easy money, and now you're embarrassed. How do you end up like this? I mean, this girl is not like, okay, like I said, she didn't grow up in an orphanage, okay? Her mother didn't abandon her. She doesn't have a father that she never met or doesn't know who it is. I mean, you literally have a mother and a father. You have brothers, okay? She's discussed that before. You have a family. You have a law degree. Your family helped put you through law school. Like, clearly you were raised in halfway right. Something was right, because you did some great things. You've accomplished things. But how do you go from that into this? I don't understand this. It's not like, were you growing up in a household where you were being beaten? Were you abused? Like, what makes a woman that is clearly very pretty, okay, she's halfway intelligent. She's intelligent enough to go to a college and get a degree, which isn't saying too much, but yes, okay, fine. And end up doing corn movies. Literally. How? How do you end up there?
And it's okay. You know what? That's probably the healthiest feeling that you have. No, Jasmine, you're experiencing shame because the truth is if you felt really good about what you're doing, whether your parents, because you didn't even engage my scenario. My scenario was if your father buys, one second, love, I let you talk. I didn't interrupt you. You don't have to interrupt me. The only reason someone would interrupt is if they want to stop the truth from coming out. I did not interrupt you because I want to hear you and I know I can dismantle your arguments. Now, in the scenario that I gave you, I said, I am an inventor of technology. If my mother used my technology or if my father used my technology, I would be over the moon for they are making me more money because they are buying my product. They are supporting me. I have a sense that they better understand what I do. And this is what I've chosen to do in my life. It's my life's work. I'd be very pleased, thankful, and proud if they consumed my life work. As your life work is, why can't you share in the kind of happiness that I feel when my parents or anyone would feel when their parents consume their work? And the reason that you cannot share in that happiness is because you feel shame. Because if your father purchased your, that means he supports you. But you keep going to back to the fact that they're religious, which they're not religious. They're religious and they don't agree. Well, they're disgusted and you feel shame. That's the fact. Why can't you just admit that you feel ashamed of what you do?
Oh, God. Jasmine, haven't you learned your lesson? Okay, stop. Do you like to be tortured? I mean, is this part of your OnlyFans? Like torturous, like stuff? Because you continue to go on the Saint and the Sinner's podcast, and Marquette over and over and over again just annihilates you and embarrasses you and shames you, and you just continue coming back for more. I mean, at some point, I'm starting to wonder if you're actually mentally ill. I'm starting to really wonder if she's actually mentally ill.
Because you just saying it is just speculative, and I'm, as the person, you cannot believe me, but there's not, then it's an unfalsifiable claim. I wouldn't want anything that's going to cause tension in my parents. So even like, for instance, I have debated, and my aunt is super, super, super pro-life. And so she's like, can I see this debate? And I'm like, oh, it might be a little tense. And I was like, I don't want you to.
All right. You know what? I'm sorry. Girl, you are living in a delusional space. You are actually comparing a debate about pro-life versus pro-choice with the fact that you take your clothes off and have sex with yourself and men on camera behind a paywall for a living. Girl, you're nuts. You are nuts. You need mental health.
See it, not because it's just anything that's going to cause tension. I'm saying I don't feel ashamed of that. I'm saying shame might not be the only reason that you may not want your parents.
Oh, I know why she came back on here. What am I? You know what, guys? You know what? I'm not on top of things today. She got on Ozempic. Look how skinny she is. She's got to get on she's over here showing out. Okay, she's been missing for a while. She's like, you know what? I'm in shape now. I want to get a few more subscribers. Let me see if I can get on Marquette, get a couple more people to get behind that paywall. I'm feeling good about myself. And she's like, why does he have to do this to me? I came on here to do a simple promotion, and he's got to make me feel sorry about my life choices. I mean, first of all, where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? This is an example of why you should absolutely never, ever, 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 ever try to make easy money by taking your clothes off and selling your body. Because there's nowhere to go from there. You're over. It's done. That's it. There is nowhere to go. You're in it for life. There's nothing left.
Parents or anybody to not be a part of a certain part of what you do if they disagree with the principle of what you're doing. I'm saying there may be other reasons that don't pertain to shame, and this is why I'm giving you this example.
Like, here's the sad thing. I want to clarify something. I want to clarify something for you. And here's the sad reality. And this is precisely why our conversation is so important, Jasmine, because there are young girls who might look at you and admire you for a moment, not realizing that everything about you is hollow and dishonest. And you have put yourself into a box, which is if you actually wanted to go out and become a proper lawyer, At some level you could, but mostly you can't. You mostly cannot reintegrate yourself back into the mainstream society because you have put a layer of filth on yourself and on your reputation. And no matter how much people say that it doesn't matter, even those liberals that you associate with, the moneyed class, no matter how much you think it doesn't matter, we all know that it will matter. And what you've done is you've limited your future prospects for employment to sex work and entertainment. In entertainment, there's no standards. You can do whatever you want. And in sex work, there's no moral standard. But if you wanted to go and become a sitting judge, you could never do that. If you wanted to become a high-powered lawyer, which I don't think you have the capacity to do, you couldn't do that. If you wanted to engage...
Oh my God. He's killing her so bad. I needed to take a breath right here. Like, wow. Wow. And you know what's crazy about this girl? And I'm going to bring it back so he can continue on. But look at this girl. She has absolutely no soul. Do you realize that? She has no soul. None. None. No soul. She's just sitting here while he's saying the crudest things to her and the most brutally honest commentary on who she is as a person. And it's not even affected her. I would literally be crying if I was in her position right now. And I had made those choices and realized that, you know what, this is the worst decision I have ever made in my life. I would actually be in tears, probably on the floor, ready to commit suicide. Like, this is unfathomable how she could just be so empty.
I don't think you have the capacity to do, you couldn't do that. If you wanted to engage in traditional corporate life as a CEO of a proper corporation, you joined the C-suite of an existing Fortune 500, you couldn't do that. And so the fact remains that you have limited what you're able to do because the overwhelming majority of humankind, including liberals, find you being a to be very objectionable. And you also find it to be objectionable, and you won't admit that you feel ashamed. And that's what saddens me. It's like, why lie? We can all tell you feel ashamed because you won't even directly address the concept of your father consuming your chief product, which is...
Okay, are you done?
You got to give an analogy talking about an abortion podcast. Why is it an issue if your father watches your... If he buys it, that means that he's comfortable with it.
Okay, so a few things. Number one is I always tell girls the same thing when they're like young and they want to start. I want to make sure that it doesn't affect your future prospects at this time. I have no intention of being a judge. I have no intention of working my ass off. My goal is to retire at 35. I'm making millions of dollars. I could probably do that. That is what I want. If that's not what you want, if your goal is to be a sitting judge, then of course, don't do. Yes, your options will be limited in that respect, and that makes sense. I didn't.
Do you realize that none of that affected her? I just can't get past this. This girl literally has no emotion. She has no feeling. She has no empathy for herself, for her family. Can you imagine the embarrassment? The embarrassment, okay, that her family has to deal with her being a porn star. Oh my God. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about anything except the millions of dollars that she's making. She doesn't want to be a judge. I mean, you're proud. How do you go to the family barbecue? How do you go to the reunion once a year and on the 4th of July party? Like, how? How do you show your face at home? I wouldn't even be able to ever speak to my parents again. I'd rather have them think I was dead. Seriously. There's something wrong with her. She's missing a chromosome.
Makes sense. I didn't want that. And so for other people who don't want that, for people who want to make millions of dollars potentially, and I even say you probably won't, so you have to be lucky in order to even do that. So I don't tell girls that that's what they want, if that's what they want to do. Number one. Number two is I don't think this will be as much of an issue as time goes on. We're already sort of changing. The tides are kind of already shifting. Again, we're winning. 10 years ago, a lot of people were more averse to homosexuality or people adopting children and all of that. They said, oh, they're going to get bullied in school. This is going to happen. Kids aren't really being bullied in school now because they have two dads. It's not, and those kids end up doing just as well. Is
she nuts? Is she out of her mind? Are you looking at the temperature of the country right now? Is she nuts? Okay, first of all, kids aren't getting bullied in school. No, kids are getting bullied in school to be genders that they aren't assigned, that they weren't born with. And then later having worse problems because they've decided it was a bad decision and now they can't go back. I mean, we're in way worse times than we've ever been in our lives. And the common person is not stupid, Jasmine. You think people are accepting to this? How do you think mgtow and the red pill and all of this stuff came into existence? Because of trash and filth like you and the delusion of media and the entertainment industry, okay, for actually thinking that the populace believes them, okay? Take a look at what's going on with Diddy right now. Are you out of your minds? Do you think people are okay with that? They're okay with sex trafficking and sex parties and filth and all of this nonsense that you promote? You're insane. She can never be a judge because she's actually stupid.
Parents of from the studies that I've looked at. So I think that the social
look at this thing. Look at Marquette's face. The studies you looked at, girl. He's like, girl. I'm listening right now. I'm about to blast you out. Studies. I don't even know if this girl can properly read. Seriously.
Social norms are changing, culture shifting, and they're shifting in my direction and not your direction. Number one. Number two.
Wrong.
Number one. Number two, but I do think it's fair to say that you should be cognizant before you enter this kind of work of the consequences that may come your way. I was fully cognizant of that. I'm not an impulsive person. I don't make impulsive decisions. I knew exactly what I was doing. And here we are. And this is exactly the life that I want. But I would say for someone else that you need to be aware of those consequences.
What consequences, Jasmine? You just got through saying that the country is changing. Times are changing. So what consequences? There aren't any, right? Yeah, there are. And you know it, which is why you just said that. You idiot. You're a disgusting disgrace. Okay? You're the worst example that could ever possibly exist for young women. You should be banned from the internet. Okay? You know, it's like YouTube and all these platforms. Yeah, you silence everybody on what? All this stuff. But you're sitting here allowing people to promote being prostitutes? You're kidding me, right?
Thank you for that. I think that was, reasonable. Okay, so at what age do you think that you adopted this holosophy? Like, do you think you were born that way, or you think that there was at a certain age you became influenced, or were you born that way, you were raised that way, or you were influenced by the society? And if it's the latter two, at what age did that impact you?
For what? Which way? What are you asking about?
Embracing holosophy, trying to win the gold in the Olympics.
I can't. Holosophy. That is brilliant. He said trying to win the gold in the whole Olympics. She's probably won 3 or 4 already. Okay. She's making millions of dollars, which means she is putting the work in.
I think that
she's answering that without saying anything. This is what I mean. This girl has no emotions. She just asked him to clarify what he was talking about. He said, holosophy, right? Trying to win the gold in the whole Olympics. And she's just answering it like it's a question in a presidential debate. I mean, do you realize that something's wrong with her? For real. For real. It takes a certain type of person to allow people to run through them on camera for $1. And that's somebody that's missing a chromosome. She's mentally ill.
I think that I don't think I was born this way. I think that when I got old enough to develop critical thinking skills and to really think about these things and be educated on them, I do remember from a young age, like this was never really aimed at me, but I would hear the word like or whatever. And I remember I was literally a child and I would look it up in the dictionary. It says a woman who has many casual partners. That was literally the definition. I still remember it. And I was like, I always wanted to know why. Like I wanted to know, okay, why is that bad? What is the reason? So I was always a curious person, which is why I was questioning, like when my parents would say, God, I was like, this God fella is a little, and then, when I got older and I started being able to really look into it, that's how I came to my opinion. But obviously everybody is influenced by a little bit of nature and nurture and the culture that they grow up in. So I'm not going to say that doesn't influence me. Of course it does. And as you know, a lot of people who are in academia, who are more educated, tend to hold values that are more similar to mine instead of religious conservative values.
Because that's what the government pushes. Yeah, that's what the government pushes. That's what these teachers' unions and all of these disgusting filth organizations push on the kids. That's why school should be privatized all around. Okay? School should be a privilege. That's how that should work. When people were like, you know, being homeschooled, you know, back in the days when they didn't have like government schooling, people were not only smarter, but they made way better choices. Now it's just socio-emotional learning and excuse after excuse. They're separating the family, okay, and making women work harder than ever. And here's the thing, ladies, do you think you're all going to end up making millions like her? No, you're not. 9 times out of 10, if you go down this path, you're going to end up with some pimp on a strip somewhere, getting abused, ending up on drugs, living the most horrifying existence that you possibly could imagine. And this is what disgusts me about people like Jasmine. Because do they actually promote that? No, she's an outlier in her field. She got lucky. You understand? That's the difference.
More liberal educated people tend to be more left-wing than right-wing. That seems to be the party of the least educated. And that could be for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, that could be for a multitude of reasons. I agree with you there. What have you felt ashamed about I guess you kind of answered that before. I thought your answer was a bit shaky. I didn't think it was very there was much depth.
That I was ashamed of the way I've treated people.
No, and I thought all do that very mundane. It was like a truism. There was no insight. Like, for example, I wrote a book called The Black Box. It's the story of my life, 0 to 25. And in the book, I try to like go deeper and give some depth such that.
Very good book, by the way. Very interesting. I never would have guessed that his life was that. Crazy. It's a great example of somebody that had a very, very, very rough childhood and made this out of himself. Now, what's the excuse for her? You had everything handed to you and you end up being a porn star? How? I don't understand it.
You know, it has meaning for people. Like one of the cases I felt ashamed is, you know, participating in a strong arm robbery, or, you know, the time that I was with some friends and they engaged in a purse snatching. I was just there. I didn't do it, but I felt deeply ashamed. I knew that I had to change my life. I highly doubt that in the span of your 28 years, if you're 28 years old, that the greatest shame that you felt is, oh, I didn't treat people nicely. It just seemed like a very surface answer. And for you, one thing I appreciate about you, which is why I'm willing to talk to you, is that you have varied and unique experience. And I would think with all of your intellect and your unique experience, you could say something more impactful or insightful. Does that make sense?
Well, this is the thing. I don't know how you got involved in robbery. I was like, I could barely leave. I couldn't be home past 10 p.m. So I haven't experienced, I haven't been involved. I haven't even gotten a speeding ticket. So I don't know what kind of experience I don't know what kind of crime I could have committed where I would feel this type.
What is she talking about? You do realize that everything he just said went right over her head. Ladies and gentlemen, don't waste a single penny on college if you're a female, okay? Don't do it. Go and put your time into volunteering at your church and finding a husband and raise kids. This girl is literally an idiot. I don't know how she has a law degree. She's like the worst debater on the planet. She's not even soaking in what he just said. My God.
It was shame. I'm looking at the relationships I've had in my life, and I feel like I could have navigated those somewhat better, but I can't be like, you know, that time I robbed somebody. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't have examples like that.
Gotcha. Rachel writes, what does she think about young kids being bullied over their moms and hitting the Epstein?
What?
Kids who do this to themselves because they were bullied because their mom has.
I don't know, maybe there's like 1 or 2 examples. I haven't heard of this happening. Again, I don't plan to have kids till I'm like 5-6 years from now. By the time they're in school, it's 10 years. Like, who even knows what the f is going to be going on by that point? If I'm still.
Yeah, honey, it's called the internet and they'll find it. Okay, they'll find it. Yeah. What is she talking about? She wants to have a family? Is she nuts? You are a prostitute. How do you make these decisions like this? I just don't understand it. I mean, if money is the actual reason why she went into this, which there's absolutely no one on earth that could convince me that she got on OnlyFans solely for the money. No, she got on OnlyFans because she's deviant and evil and filthy and disgusting. You understand? That's why she got on OnlyFans. She didn't even come from a situation where she was in dire desperation to survive. She didn't even get on OnlyFans for survival. She already had a law degree. Okay? This girl has absolutely no excuse for the path that she chose, aside from the fact that she likes it. And now you want to go raise children and have a family? First of all, who is marrying you? Well, another corn star, one of your partners in one of your episodes on your OF page? I mean, what kind of shot at life do you think her kids actually are going to have? Forget about the bullying they're going to experience. I mean, this is just unbelievable.
Still popping by then, I'll take that as a win, I'd say.
Understood. Also, why not work hard as a lawyer and retire at 35 as a lawyer?
Do you think lawyers are making millions a year? They're a little confused. To be making what I make as a lawyer, you have to be worked decades and then worked your way at the top, probably on an East Coast partner at like a huge firm. It's like literally it.
What's that?
Lawyers don't retire at 35. Sorry,
that's correct, because they are essentially employees. They're in the service industry. Free game, right? Studies show that P ruined the bond in relationships, but you don't want your father to see your P because it will ruin your relationship. Okay, gotcha. Selfish. Why do you
now she look at this. She's pretending like she doesn't know what that means. First of all, the thought of that is just so grotesque. Grotesque. It's like, you know, you read stories and true stories over time where, like, let's say a girl was abducted as a child and ended up in a house somewhere trapped, okay, as like a sex slave for some man that abducted her, okay? And then one day, the FBI comes and finds you. How do you think that turns out for that girl? How do you think that works? Do you think that they can really live with themselves? Do you think that that life is not extremely tormentful, difficult? Do you think that knowing that you were used as whatever for said person, that it's not embarrassing to look at your father after something that traumatic happening to you? Just think about this. This girl is doing this willingly and getting paid for it on camera. Like,
why do you think your sister doesn't do this?
Because my sister has a very different temperament than me, and she's a very different personality type than me. She doesn't like any of the things I like. We have very different interests, and she likes being a lawyer. She enjoys it. I don't. So there you go.
Fair enough. Why do you think that? Okay, that's a good answer. That's a really good answer. I thank you for that. So here's something that I think is very common and concerning. And for me, it's a good metric on figuring out if you're a demon or not. And I don't say that in a religious sense. I just say that as a person who's generally bad for the society, bad for humankind. In as much as if people were to emulate you or follow you, that will lead to a multitude of bad things on the planet Earth.
You know what? That's the kind of thing that you watch The Saint and the Sinner for. That. It's like he just so effortlessly comes across and says, demon, just the way that he lays it out. And, you know, any other normal person would be like thrown off. And she's just like, go ahead, I'm listening.
Things on the planet Earth. One thing that I find to be sad and strange and unexplainable about you, and I can only explain it through knowing that your nature itself is evil, is that you came from a well-to-do family. You were raised by a father who was an engineer, a mother who was an attorney. They were a part of the moneyed class. They're in a very strong community in America, the Persians, whom I know well, and I have good friends who are Persian. And you, even when you were in law school, your father, who was not a good father, was even foolish enough to continue spoiling you, and he purchased you a house, which is to say you received things that are unearned. So you had every comfort that a woman would seek, yet you still go out and yourself for money. And the truth is, it's not really for money. It's your evil drive. That's what I want to establish to everyone watching. And there are many like you, like Cuck 22, Adolf 22. He prostitutes his wife even though they don't need the money. Do you?
So disgusting, Adam 22, what he's talking about. But do you hear what he just did to her? My God, can you imagine? This is what I was saying. Okay, I wasn't even aware that her father purchased her a house. I mean, do you understand how spoiled and lucky this woman is and what she did with that? Do you know how many girls would actually kill, beg and plead and every day ask God, why? Why not me? Why couldn't I be in that position? And this is what she does with it. The most disgusting, disrespectful thing, not only to herself, but to her family. This is how little regard you have for all of the things that you were blessed with. Because those are blessings, my friend.
They don't need the money. Do you actually understand what's driving you? Because you mentioned millions of dollars, but it's actually not the money. No one needs millions of dollars. So do you understand what is actually driving your psychology and your behavior?
So one thing is, I think this idea of, oh, you want attention, you want validation. I didn't have any social media. Like I didn't have an Instagram, Facebook, nothing until I started. So if I had huge fucking when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, I was nowhere on social media. Yeah, my parents, actually, my dad bought another house that if I wanted to ever move back, I could live in. I don't need that, but it's not like my parents were like, okay, you should.
I need to get your dad's on my own.
Do you never want to work again? It wasn't like you never have to work again and we'll support and I have expensive taste. We're going to support that lifestyle of yours forever. My parents I'm not Paris Hilton. Like they weren't giving me that. I wasn't an heiress. So I still had to work. That's why they sent me to law school in order to be a lawyer. And that was supposed to be my life trajectory, is working as a lawyer until I retire, having a less lavish lifestyle, having a good safety net to fall back on, still having my parents. All of that was still definitely a thing, but I wanted, one, to be independent. I've always been super dependent on my parents. And two,
oh my God, so you have to be a prostitute and corn star to be independent? I mean, lady.
And two, I wanted to create a life for myself where I could retire young and not spend my young years also miserable at a law office. Those are the main reasons I started. However, now I love it. I love what I do. And I love being able to bring other parts of my personality into this, like debating and talking about these things, talking about different topics on Twitch. I really enjoy this kind of work, just like I'm sure you do.
Oh, okay. So you enjoy debating and other topics. And the only way to get into debating was to become a corn star. Yeah. I mean, this is, if your mind isn't blown by watching this, then something's wrong with you as well. Because this is not normal. This is somebody that has something severely emotionally wrong. She's mentally ill. She's mentally ill. She's missing a chromosome. It's not natural. Women only do things like this normally when they're in dire positions. It's a survival tool to end up resorting to the one thing that you're given, which is your body, to survive. She comes from a wealthy family. This is insane. A family of lawyers. And she's a lawyer. And her father gave her a house. I mean, this is crazy.
You do.
You bring up a fascinating perspective. And, truth be told, I live a very good lifestyle, and I have lived a very good lifestyle for a long time. And so I've enjoyed many of the things that you're referring to. And when I was a very young person, I very much so wanted to make a bunch of money. And that largely came because I grew up in poverty. And then being able to make a lot of money and enjoy a lot of luxuries, I find that it has not so much value. And I certainly wouldn't, sell my soul or risk my dignity for such a thing. Do you feel like the price might be too high and later on you might have regret?
I honestly don't think so. So I don't think the point of life is money. And if you watch any of my streams on Twitch, I mean, we all read Lost Connections, Johan Hari. I think the key to life is meaningful relationships. I think those things are more important than money. But
meaningful relationships? Do you understand? Nothing that comes out of her mouth makes sense. Meaningful relationships are important to you, but clearly not those with, like, say, your father. Because there is no possible way on earth that you have a meaningful relationship with your father, okay? When you are in a chosen field that he can't even participate or be proud of you being in.
Money. But again, I think there are plenty of people, my kind of people, that would still want a meaningful relationship. The only type of people I want a meaningful relationship with are people who don't view sex and the way you do. So no, I don't think it'll have consequences for me, at least consequences that I am not super willing to take. Now, for other women, that may be entirely different. And so I'm not saying this is for everyone. You have to have a certain type of temperament. You have to be okay with certain type of consequence. You have to be very secure in yourself. These are things I think you need in this industry. And I happen to be cut out for this.
Bam said, we need a split in society. We can't coexist.
Okay, so Jasmine, why do you think that you're driven to feel like you need so much when you already had a strong foundation from your family who would essentially take care of you, and your father had already did much more than take care of you? Like, why were you driven to just like seek like fabulous levels of wealth?
I will admit, this is something that I 100% will admit that I have always been, and I am materialistic.
Well, hold on a second. Okay, hold on. Okay, back that up, girl. You just got through saying that this is not about money. Now you're materialistic. So which is it? You just said that life is not about money. It's about relationships. But now you're materialistic. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's one or the other or both. But I mean, look, your choices don't make sense. Of course you're doing this for money, and you're doing it for fame, and you're doing it for what you think is giving you power. But what you don't realize is that at the end of the day, there will come a time where you deeply, deeply, deeply regret your choices. It's inevitable. Unless you are just purely demonic, which is very possible.
I want a lot of money. I want all the nice things in life. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, do I think that's the most important thing, or even like, but financial success is definitely an asset in this life. And it makes your life a lot easier. It makes it easier that I don't have to cook, that I just paid someone to clean my whole house and I've never cleaned. Like, it's nice. I like that. And so I'm not going to pretend that I don't, or that having a bunch of money is negative or it's bad. Now, yes, I could live a better life than most of the people in here with.
You know something? I have to say this. You know, she just made me realize, okay, that what she's saying right here actually shows very deeply the type of person that she is, okay? For example, right? My mother, there was a lot of things that she didn't have to do, okay? Trust me, she never wanted for anything. She never needed for anything with my father. My father had plenty of money to take care of every little thing. You understand what I'm saying? She chose to clean the house. She chose to make meals for her family. She chose to make sure my father's ties and suits were in order, and anything she could to make him feel better about his situation. Because my mom is a loving person who sincerely loves children more than anyone that I've ever met in my life, and absolutely loves people. My mother is kind and giving and selfless. This woman, everything she is saying basically says, I'm a selfish, disgusting, demonic human being. I want to lay around and spread my legs and be served. You understand? And this woman has the audacity earlier on in this debate to talk about having a family in 4 or 5 years. What are you having a family for? So that nannies can raise your kids? And maids and cooks can tend to your husband? Is that what family is about? This is how delusional she is.
life than most of the people in here without doing that, but I also still would need to work. It's not like my parents they maybe would support me even if I didn't work, but they would hound me every day about it. I like being independent. I like being able to go to the mall and buy whatever the fuck I want. I like that, and that's okay.
Got you. And you know, the truth of what you're saying, I think, is precisely why we don't want women running much except maybe their mouth periodically, is because to be comfortable with being materialistic is one of the lowest things that anyone could ever be. I respect the fact that you'll admit to it.
Very well said. Very well said. That's why I revere my mom. You know, somehow she manages to have basically everything she wants without ever asking for it. Actually, she gives most things away. Okay, this girl is literally the scum of the earth. The scum of the earth, okay? It's like we've gotten to a place in society where people take your kindness for weakness. That's where we're at, you know? People come around you, you go out of your way to do nice, kind things for them just to say thanks. And what do? They stab you in the back. They stab you in the back. That's where we are in society. But you know what? They have to live with themselves, just like she has to live with herself. What kind of life is that?
And the reason I say that, there's a quotation you've probably heard, which goes something like this, which is, outer show is a poor substitute for inner worth. You ever heard that one?
That's true. But I actually, if you watch my social media, I don't show off anything. I'm always wearing like Skims. You don't know anything of what I have. I don't talk about what in fact, you do a little more than I do. I don't showcase any.
I thought you don't watch my content. What do you mean I do? I do that more than you.
Intro video and you're showing where you've been. Like, I don't do that. I personally, like, I would feel weird doing that because I feel like it's just to make, I think it would make people feel bad. It's not what I'm trying to do. And it's also just tacky to me. Now, you can agree showing your asshole on the internet's tacky. Fair. I mean, hey, you said it, girl. You said it. She has the audacity to sit here and talk about somebody else being tacky. Girl, you're beyond. Okay? You're literal trash. You're trash. You're naked online. And you're charging men to see your body and watch you have sex with other men and women. You're disgusting. You're gross. But to me, the cringiness is okay there. I'm not comfortable with it here, and it doesn't actually make me money. Maybe you could argue it would make me money to show off my wealth. I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable. So it's not that I don't wear, like, I'm not a logo person. Like, I don't actually like to show off my wealth, like, outer. But this woman has the audacity to be comparing logos. Logos, okay? Like, she thinks she's above people because she doesn't like logos. I don't happen to like logos either, okay? I'm not the type of person to walk into, you know, a Louis Vuitton store and, you know, with all this Louis LV all over it, okay? I mean, but are you nuts, lady? Are you out of your mind? She's literally trying to make herself up here because she doesn't like to show off wealth. But you just said you like to go in the mall and buy all this stuff and everything. So who cares if you're showing it or not? I mean, did you understand what she's saying makes no sense? And she's calling him tacky. Okay. But he spends all his days, free time or whatever, right? His internet, because he doesn't make his money, at least he says, solely off of YouTube. He builds apps. He does things. But he takes time to try and advise men to go in the right direction. And what are you doing? I mean, I can't even believe she just made that comparison. That's crazy. But I think that there is a lot of, especially men in these, like, you could look at Andrew Tate, you can look at all these people where they do a lot of that as they talk about my Bugattis and I have all this.
Well, you know what the difference is between why they would do that reasonably and you? You see, the difference is that Pardon?
Andrew Tate shows off his wealth reasonably?
I'm not talking about Andrew Tate.
Okay, well, that's the example.
Are you ready for the answer?
Sure.
Okay. The reason that people in, say, a self-help space or a self-improvement space would show off, hey, I have X, Y, and Z, is because, just make it clear, like, people watch your content while they're jacking off. and they don't have any greater intention other than to jack off when they're watching your content. So you get $7.99 for someone jacking off or whatever you charge. But in the case of, say, someone who's a businessman saying, hey, guys, I can teach you about business. Oh, and by the way, I got 2 Rolls Royce. I got a Maybach. I got an i8. I got a bunch of properties. I got 9 bank accounts. I got Ritz-Carlton condo here, a Waldorf Astoria place here. Well, the reason is because the people who are watching you want to attain business success. Why do they want business success? For the financial reasons. And so you need to demonstrate, hey, I'm talking it because I've really walked it. I have the goods to show. So it's really a marketing tool. It's not a necessity that you actually feel that way or value those things. You logically understand why.
I understand that. But well, there's 2 things wrong with it. One is I think a lot of that content borders on, ooh, this is your worth. This makes me more valuable because I have X, Y, Z. But also, I'm not just talking about in the self-help context. I mean, men in hip hop and rap, like this, like part of the culture in hip hop and rap is just to talk about how much money you have and what are they selling.
What are you selling, lady? Lady, you're a corn star again. Are you nuts? You're literally promoting that other girls can make a good living and become wealthy by allowing men to abuse their bodies on camera. My God, this is the lowest of the low. How could you even consider comparing yourself to somebody like even a Wes Watson? Are you nuts? Are you nuts? You just got through saying that you like expensive things. You like this and that you could never make the money that you need or would make you happy being a lawyer because they don't make enough money, which is why you became a prostitute and a corn star. I mean, you do realize what you said prior, like 5 minutes ago, right? Try to keep track when you're on these debates.
Or helping people do. So it's not just that men are always just showing off their resources so responsibly and women are always doing it so irresponsibly. I don't.
No one said that women are doing it irresponsibly. And I never even accused you of showing off your resources because I don't have any experience with you doing that.
On Cash App, Jamie came back to back. His first one says, police, military are right wing. That matters most. And then he said, men lean right and men lead revolutions, not women.
Correct.
What happened? If I needed to hear it, say it again. I don't know.
No, I don't think you did.
She's not going to comprehend it anyway. He's smart.
So what we were talking about initially is materialism, not showing off, but materialism. And then there's various ways that the female engages in vanity or materialism. One thing I would be curious about, and I think that this is a really fascinating place where men and women used to differ, but increasingly men and women are becoming the same because males are becoming so damn effeminate.
Don't forget to subscribe to The Saint and the Sinner. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this girl is ill. Something is wrong with her, okay? This is the absolute worst example of a path a female could possibly take, because not only is what she's doing absolutely disgusting and low, you can never take it back. No one respects you. And it's like a 0.1% of people that will actually be successful at it. There has to be better choices here. Okay, how did we get to this point in time where women have absolutely zero respect, not only for themselves, but for your own family, for the people that are around you? It's insanity. Oh my God. Bravo once again to The Saint and the Sinner for destroying this thought. Okay, I'm DiBRAVA. I hope you got a kick out of Jasmine Jafar attempting to what she calls debate. I'm going to go with no, because everything he said went right over your head. It's like one flew over the cuckoo's nest, honey, and you're it. I'm DiBRAVA. See you next time.